when it comes to those listening right now that are struggling with taking their life, veterans or not, non-veterans,
Right.
I think that's a good message. Is you have a responsibility to stay alive. People, you might not feel like people depend on you. I think a lot of times people feel like they're a burden.
Yeah, they're 100%.
Yeah.
And they're not being who they need to be to support others that love them. And if you feel like you're a drag, that's probably a lot of it, right? With guys, is like feeling that they're a burden on their family versus an asset.
Yeah,
That's tough.
That was me. You know, it's most of the people on the show have heard my story before, and it was that thought came over me that my family would be sad without me, but they would be better off.
Oh man!
And I really believed they would be better off because I was such a tyrant to them and just a drain on them. But now on this side of it, I see that same lie, that same hopeless thought that so many of our brothers and sisters that have felt and then gave into it. But unfortunate job I've had at Mighty Oaks, I get to see the other side of it.
Right.
And family members.
When guys make it through without doing it.
And their families.
I didn't understand
devastated.
suicide so much for a while, and I felt it was like weakness or cowardly behavior. And I went through so much of it with those I loved, and that belief that you just said of they truly believe that they're more of a burden than an asset.
It's a lie, right?
Correct.
It's that thought's a lie, but
Correct.
that's the mindset they're in. There's one I've shared the story a couple of times. I was speaking at church in a place called Broken Arrow, Oklahoma. And when I speak, I usually have a Mighty Oaks flyer, and I hold it up and I say, because everything we do is free, right? We pay for flights, we do about $8 million a year in programming, so
awesome. Take
take advantage of it. And from my viewpoint on the stage, I could see the wives nudging the husband, like, "Hey, that's you need to go to this program." And so in the crowd, there was a lady named Heather and her husband Pete, and she encouraged him to go to Mighty Oaks. And he said all the excuses, right? That's not for me. I don't want to take a slot for someone else. He didn't go. 6 months later, I got a call from the pastor, Ron Woods of that church, and he said, we had a suicide in our church. This guy, Pete, he stood in the back of a pickup truck, surrounded by police, and he had a pistol, and he put it to his head, and he said the same thing we were saying. He said, "Tell my wife I love her, and I'm doing this for her." So he had that thought, right? He thought he was doing it to help her. "Tell my wife I love her, I'm doing this for her," and he pulled the trigger, blew his brains out. And the pastor said that he wanted me and my wife Kathy to go there, and so I talked to Heather. She wanted to talk to us because she wanted to tell the veteran community
what
that
happened.
lie, right? And we went there and met with her, and she was like telling us how she had went to the morgue that night, and they didn't want to let her see him because he had shot himself in the head, right? Gunshot wound to the head. But she insisted, and they couldn't stop her. Yeah. And so she went and she said she put her head on his chest, like trying to. She just couldn't believe it wasn't real. Like, I have to hear it. There's no heartbeat. And then calling his mom screamed it would never be the same. And then she talked about like she was grieving in her room in her house alone, and how mad she was that he wasn't there to help her grieve through his loss. Which sounds crazy, right? Yeah. And then, but she said something that really stuck with me and really convicted me for where I was believing that same lie. She said, Pete thought by killing himself he was taking away his pain, but all he did was transfer his pain to everyone that loves him. Sure. And it's a transfer of that pain and hurt. It didn't solve anything.
Well, you always wonder, like, everybody's going to wonder what you could have done different. Like Ethan, so the guy that bought me that Navy SEAL workout book, I finally built half-face blades that big enough. I always wanted to just bring him down to live with me and help him out. He had clinical depression since his mom died for 20 years, 50 years old, overweight. He was working on a dock in Brookings, Oregon, and I had like built my business just enough, got my first shop, 900 square feet, and I was like, I have enough money to hire him, whether he's a good worker or not. Yeah. Get him out of the place he's in. I drove all the way to Brookings, talked to him on the phone. I was texting him while he's sitting in his car during lunch, like by the docks, and I banged on his window and I was like, and I got, I was like, "You're quitting the job." I moved him down to San Diego, and I battled clinical depression with him. Terrible depression. He'd be like crying, and we'd hug him in my shop and work with him, and he lived in my house every day and like pray with him in the mornings and get him through another day. And he was late to work one morning, and he went in the Home Depot parking lot and shot himself in the head with a 22. And it was just like,
oh my gosh.
Yeah, what can you do?
It's so hard, man, when you do everything to try to just reach these guys, and you feel like you're pouring everything into it, and then you feel like you missed something, right? And you failed. And, but
the clinical depression's different. You know, it's like, he'd be like, "Does it ever feel like your heart is breaking all day, every day?" And I'm like, "I know what heartbreak's like. That's horrible. You know, I'm sorry you're going through it. Like, what can I do?" Yeah. You know, and it's, I don't know if you just love them so much and you work with them so much, you extend their life a little longer. or you appreciate and understand that 20 years of that level of heartache, he's ended it. And I don't want him to have that pain anymore because I couldn't solve it. You know,
Right.
Can't solve it all.
I clearly I could tell that one stings for you. Is there anything you learned from that to be able to help others, like, or to be able to pass on to help others?
I don't know, man. That's a tough one. Gio was a tough one.
Yeah.
You know, that's tough.
Gio was a team guy?
No, he was SIGINT for Marsaw, and then came over to the teams, deployed with Eddie.
Okay.
When Eddie got in trouble, he stood up for him on the stand. He married my niece, changed his last name, my last name. Awesome, funniest dude ever. Battling stuff, and then I don't know, took his life like 4 or 5, maybe longer than that, but
yeah,
just battled stuff. He would put out a lot of information about how to get through suicide. Like, this is what I do, and veterans would listen, talk to a lot of guys, and then they're like, well, you did it. You know what I mean? But I think a lot of stuff that when people do wrong, you forgive, I guess, because you never know what people are going through. Like, I've chewed his ass for being a dummy, and then a little falling out, and then we reconnected really well. And I love you. I don't have anything against you, and reconnected really well. And talked to him Monday. I was able to have an awesome conversation, give him a hug, and you just don't, like, you wouldn't have ever guessed who would do it.
Yeah.
Like, you have no idea sometimes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And a lot of it is pride, chip on the shoulder, pride. You don't want to ask people for help, or doesn't have to be, you don't have to go to the public and call a 1-800 number. You know, a close friend, if you're in financially, a close buddy can be like, all right, let's work on it together. I'm not going to tell anybody, you know, if there's pride involved. But
I think too, I've been working in this space for a long time with Mighty Oaks. And one of the things I found that people don't, one is pride, two is not wanting to put the burden on someone else. But one of the things I found to be consistently, at least from my perspective, one of the reasons that guys don't ask for that help in the end is they're so tired of trying to get help. They're exhausted on the effort. Yeah. It's like nothing's going to help. And they believe like there's no way out. Like,
or they've done so many things and it's still maybe a little better, but it still comes back. It's still the same.
And so they feel like it's going to be, the thought is it's going to be this way forever.
Right.
It's never going to be better.
Do I really want to go do, and there's, you know, I know there's plant medicine people do. I know you're not a big advocate of that. It's helped some people. I think it's probably been negative for some people because you're a Christian.
I've heard some good stories from people.
I think, and you know, I grew up really godly family, Christian family, and my mom is like, "Don't do it. It opens a door, you know, that you just go to the Bible." And I'm like, "Well, you understand the Bible more than I do." I think it can help people to an extent. I think it can be negative. I don't know.
You don't have to answer if you don't want, but have you tried it?
I haven't done iboga.
Yeah. No. I've talked to a lot of people who have done it.
Same, and like close friends.
Some guys have had great experience. Other guys have had terrible experiences. Yeah. Some guys end up right back where they were 6 months later, which I think it
can help. I know guys that's really showed them a lot, and they've found a lot of forgiveness in the things they've done in life. Like, I think when you're in the right going to war and you're taking people's lives, I still think it's going to affect you because I don't think we're born to kill other people.
Hey, what's up, Brazilian family? I am so grateful for each of you who tune in every week to hear our episodes. We have such incredible guests and topics that I am passionate about, our team's passionate about, and we could not do it without you. So we're thankful for you. We love you. We appreciate you locking arms with us to be more informed, to become a more resilient community. And I want to invite you to become a tighter part of that community by joining us on Patreon. If you go to our show notes below, you can click the link and get dialed into our Patreon and get extra content weekly. You can join for $15 a month and get behind the scenes footage, get closer access to me. I have monthly Zooms that I'll be doing with some members of the community. And so we'd love to get more involved. Again, go below in the show notes and click the link and join today.